Hello, everybody. My name is Shae, and welcome back to the latest episode of my modded Minecraft Autumn Adventure. Last episode, we went on a journey across the world with all sorts of new sights and sounds and blocks to add to our block palette, and we also built up this new structure to add onto our starter base, this beautiful mossy stump that's going to serve as a storage space for us. Now, you may have noticed that the area around here looks a little bit different than it did at the end of last episode, and that's because I just got done with a 5-hour stream where I worked on flattening out this area, building up some terrain, and laying out where everything is going to go as we get started on our farm project today. Today is the big landscaping episode. I want to come through all of this area right here, make a nice looking path, make a little stream, build some trees, plant some grass and lots of bushes and foliage, and just really tie everything together and make our builds here feel really ingrained in the terrain and in their surroundings. Another thing we did is we added a little storage system over here. We now have these drawers set up for our bulk storage items such as dirt, cobblestone, and deep slate. As well as the sheer amount of birch logs we're gathering as we clear out all of this space over here. And we also transferred over a whole bunch of our chests out of the mushroom. So we've got our seeds, we've got our flowers, and our other miscellaneous garbage. We got stone, we got logs, we got dirt and soil and gravel. And then we've got all sorts of furniture and planks and stuff over here. And that means that our mushroom house over here is going to be pretty much only reserved for cooking for the near future. I'm sure as we go throughout the series, the purposes of these starter bases are going to flex and change to suit our needs, but for right now, this is what we're working with. We actually started out the stream by doing some mining and some caving. We found lots of iron and a few diamonds. I died several times because I refused to cut my losses and head back with all my booty, but we eventually came out alive with all sorts of goodies, including the resources to make this brand new little enchanting table. And I've decided that we're going to build our enchanting setup up here on this little ledge. I've added some trapdoors to give us a little more space to work with. And I think it looks really nice through here. I really like what I've done with the place. I'm probably going to keep tweaking and changing things, all the little supports around here, but I think it looks really cool so far. And as we progress through the next few episodes, we're going to be working on obtaining the resources we need to build the bookshelves around this place. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal right now because I keep dying, so I don't have the XP to enchant anything at level 30 anyway. But yeah, we have a really solid foundation to work with here, which puts us in a really good position to start work on the main part of our base. And like I said, today is the landscaping episode, so I'm gonna spend some time here working on our path, working on our river here, and I'll come back with you guys with a little update in just a bit. Goodness, guys, doesn't this look amazing? I'm so happy with how this area came together. This was hours and hours of work trying to get all of this looking like this. I wanted this area to have a nice, like, natural kind of overgrown feel, but I also wanted it to have some structure, and I think we managed to tie those two concepts together really nicely. It feels really lovely to walk through here. So let me give you a little bit of a tour. So the main passes that I did over this area, essentially, is that first I came through, as you already saw in the last clip, that we'd outlined where the river was going to go, and I'd kind of roughed out where the path was going to go already. So the first thing I did was I came through and I added some texturing to the path here. So the blocks we used some rooted dirt, we used some coarse dirt, we used the path blocks, of course, and some grass. These are all things that were already pretty natural in this area. And then we came in and added some travertine, I believe it's called. I believe that's from the Create mod. And then some thatch from Farmer's Delight, I believe. And I really like these blocks because they have this same kind of shade of like this dry tan or brown. And it really makes the path feel more dried out, like dried out earth through here, which is a sharp contrast to what we see with the river. Over here, we use some of the same coarse dirt, rooted dirt very occasionally. But then I also incorporated some mud, and currently it's farmland. But in the long run, I'm hoping to swap this out for what's it called? Fertile soil from Farmer's Delight. It's a pretty similar color, but the texture is a little bit different, and I think we'll add a nice bit of variance to this area. But I think this looks really, really nice, and it really sells the idea that these riverbanks here are nice and wet and muddy, and serves as a nice contrast to the palette we use in the path and helps distinguish the two from one another. I also added a little bit of the wet blocks. Again, these dark oak planks are going to be placeholders for the fertile soil for the most part, but I added bits and bobs here and there along the edges of our little garden patches here to kind of just blend them into the terrain a little bit more. I am obsessed with the idea I came up with here to outline the garden patches. These are just curtain rods from Macaw's windows. It's raining! No! Stop ruining my clip! Okay, it's the next morning. Rain is gone. As you can see, I also split off the river going down this way. So we have two branches of the stream coming down here, down this hill and towards the mushroom and stump area. So this is the first branch we already had. And the other one, I was originally going to just dump it off into the pit here. Which, don't worry about the animals down there. They're fine. They're, I'm sure they're very happy and healthy. Don't even worry about it. But I decided I didn't like that. It didn't really feel like a happy conclusion to this little branch of the river. So I continued it downwards, down towards the lake here and connected it up. So we have a little bridge coming across here. And all the bridges we have coming through here, these are temporary. I'm going to gussy them up a little bit more with some trapdoors, maybe some chains or something. I haven't quite decided. But I still think they look pretty good for now. They're just spruce trapdoor, nice and simple. And yeah, we brought the landscaping all the way down through here. I still want to do a lot more in this area here, but I did not have time for that this episode, unfortunately. Today is Thursday, the day that this episode releases, and I only have about 5 minutes of video, and I'm recording the rest of it right now. But yeah, as you can see, we brought the landscaping all the way down through here, and it all flows so nicely. I think it looks so pretty. And then the last pass that we did, after we did the river and the garden beds here, is I brought in all of this foliage. These are, what are these? These are swamp oak leaves, making up the majority of our little bushes on the ground here. I also added in these oak fences from Macaw's fences. And then dotted around occasionally we have some spruce fences with azalea leaves on top, just to give a bit of variety, and then just to add kind of that little miniature tree, small bush kind of vibe. And of course, I also peppered in lots of pieces of grass. All of these short grass pieces were placed by hand. We also have some, what's it called, beach grass. We found over on the beach over there. And my favorite foliage block, let me see if I can find one, is this one. This is the sandy shrub. I think it looks so cute. It's just a little guy. And I think it just looks so nice, and I need to find more of them because I like how low profile they are compared to the other grass blocks in this game. And then yeah, we just kind of came through here and peppered them around everywhere. We have little flowers here and there. Along the river, I also incorporated some stones. These are some stepping stones from DecoCraft, I believe. And then in the water, I placed some submerged walls and macaw's fences walls, as well as some stairs to kind of look like some rocks and stuff kind of floating in the water, or not floating in the water, but submerged in the water. And I think that looks very nice as well. So yeah, all in all, this project was a lot of work, but it's coming together so nicely. It was so worth it. Oh, and last but not least, I also you did probably did not see this in the time lapse, but I added some custom trees. They're not super noticeable. Um, they pretty much blend in with the regular trees around them. But if you look closely, they do feel a little bit more full, a little bit more lively than the default trees that were in this area, and I'm very excited to come through and change out the rest of these for custom made trees. Um, my favorite one that we did is this one right in the middle here. This birch tree here, you know how birch trees sometimes you'll notice that they branch off into like two or three, or even like four or five different trunks all stemming from the same spot. That's kind of the idea I was going for here with like a double tree right here. And I think it looks so cool. I think that came together so nicely. Uh, yeah, I'm obsessed with this tree. I think it's very pretty, and it's a nice centerpiece for this area. And it helps kind of block some of the line of sight for, oh yeah, if you're wondering what that blue outline is over there, that is where our farmhouse is going to go, which we will be working on next episode. But yeah, as you're coming up the path here, this will kind of serve to help block off some of that, and there'll be probably another tree here that we'll build up near the farmhouse, so that as you're coming through here, you'll get a little glimpse, a little peek of the farmhouse as you're coming up, but you won't get the grand reveal until you cross this bridge, you come around the corner, and then it's bam! Now you can see the farmhouse. And I'm very excited for that. I think that's going to be very cool for us. But of course, there is something missing from our little farm area here, and that's the actual plants that we're trying to grow, the actual farm. So I've got in my inventory all of the seeds that we've gathered so far. Well, not all of them. There's a few bewitchment seeds that don't produce like edible crops that I'm going to ignore for now. We're going to plant those down by our stump. But I'm going to go through here and we're going to decide where we're going to place each of these crops for now. Now to start off, this big section here, this is going to be our big wheat field. That's the plan for this area. So I'm just going to fill this all up with wheat seeds, and hopefully we'll get this filled up by the end of today's episode. And then along the back here, I think in this upper section, we're going to have a big field of these flax seeds, unless I change my mind. And then down here, we're going to have our corn field. If it turns out I don't need as much flax as I think I do, or it doesn't look as pretty as I think it's going to, then we'll make this whole thing corn. I kind of like the idea of having these two big fields of kind of these bulk crops like wheat and corn, kind of bookending the two sides of the farm area here. And then these smaller garden patches we will use for our regular crops, like cabbage. And now I believe we have 5 more crops in our inventory right here, and I think we have 5 garden patches. So we're going to get more crops in the long term, so we're going to have to change this up. But I think for now, we're just going to put one type of each in each garden patch here. So that is our cabbage patch. This is going to be where our carrots go. We can plant beetroot over here, I suppose. There's not really any rhyme or reason to how I'm doing this. I'm just kind of planting them wherever it feels right. I think we can put garlic up here. You know what? Actually, I'm going to put garlic and potatoes. Actually, that's a lie. I'm not going to do garlic and potatoes. We should do garlic and onion. Where are my onions? I need to plant some onions. Okay, so we'll come back and plant some onions over there. And then I'm going to bring our potatoes over here. And apparently I did my math completely wrong because we have more garden patches than we have varieties of plants. But that's okay. We will be getting lots more seeds and lots more things to plant, hopefully in the near future here. And so I'm going to keep an eye on these and keep harvesting them so we can get enough seeds to hopefully fill up each of these garden plots and get all of these fully grown so we can see what this farm area looks like in its full glory. In the meantime, while we wait for those crops to grow, I wanted to give a little bit of a tutorial, just a short little thing on how I make these birch trees. And kind of just a general overview of my tree building process in general. So the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out the skeleton of your tree. This is my general approach to making trees in general. I find it's very helpful to look at pictures of actual trees and see how the branches grow. So, like for example, with this birch tree, the branches tend to grow pretty narrow. It's a very tall, vertical kind of tree. And along that same vein, it's important to pay attention to the size of the branches and how they tend to get narrower as you go up into the tree. So at the bottom, we have a couple of small, chunky branches made out of full blocks of birch. And then we branch off from there. Here I use diorite because it's also white and blends in pretty well with the birch, especially after you cover it with leaves. And we top it off with lots of birch fences. And you want them to kind of branch off in different directions. You want to make sure that when you're doing a 360 of the tree that you have pretty full coverage that is not a squash flat in one dimension. So you're going to end up with a skeleton that looks kind of like this. And really, that's the most challenging part, is once you get that skeleton down and you have that formula down for how to construct the skeleton of any particular type of tree, once you have that done, that's the hard part done. The most important thing to note here is that it's really important when you're placing the leaves to try to leave air gaps where you can. You want to get pretty full coverage, but you want to leave some spots where there's spaces in between the leaves. All of this serves to give the tree structure a little bit more depth and dimensionality. It's a pretty small detail, but when you leave those air gaps, you can really sense that extra space in there. And overall, it ends up lending to that sense of airiness and volume that you don't get from the default vanilla trees. And eventually, you'll end up with something that looks a little bit like this. Now, is she perfect? No. Is she a little bit ugly depending on what angle you look at her from? Yes. But that's all part of the fun. I mean, trees are a part of nature, and sometimes nature is a little bit ugly. The biggest thing I can say is just to try to embrace the craziness a little bit and have fun with it. And another thing is just don't lose the forest to the trees. I think that's the saying. Maybe I just made that up, but that's my saying now. Because if you spend way too much time focusing on making one individual tree look perfect, you're going to be wasting your time, because you're going to be building up 5 or 4 or 6 or however many more trees surrounding it, and you're going to lose all of that detail just like that. Now, if you're building like a centerpiece tree like this one, yeah, it makes sense to spend a little bit more time on it. But at the end of the day, when you're building up large pieces of foliage like this, the main focus should be trying to optimize your process and figuring out how to get things built as quickly as possible while still making them look as pretty as possible. Oh, and you will fall down time and time again. If you have them, feather falling boots are great for making trees. I don't care how good you think you are at this game, you will fall down, and you will you will probably die a couple of times. I can't tell you how many times I've died in the making of this episode, building up all of these trees. Why is there a villager here? Where did you come from, sir? Hello? What in the world? Well, we got a new friend, I guess. And now, a few hours later, and all of our crops have grown up, and our cozy little farm here is feeling fuller and livelier than ever. Look at her. Look at her. It feels like a real farm now. It's so lush and beautiful. Oh, I love how this turned out. I'm so happy with this. It does kind of feel like there's something missing, though. Something that I think I want to put right there. And then, one last thing. Wait for it to get halfway. Bada bing. Bada boom. I had to take the trapdoors off because I can't make super glue right now. But look at her! Doesn't that look so cool? We got a nice cozy little windmill. Oh my god, look at that! Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I'm so happy with how that turned out. And with that, I think that's gonna do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun today. This episode was a lot of work. I think this video represents about between 20 and 30 hours of work. So if you enjoyed, please be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any questions, comments, or snide remarks, feel free to drop them down in the comment section below. Anything you can do to help support the channel is much appreciated, so I can keep creating videos just like this one. And if you want to see some of those 20 to 30 hours that goes into these videos, you should go check out my Twitch channel. A whole lot of the work in-game that went into this episode was live streamed over there on Twitch. All of the landscaping and stuff I did live on camera. And I had a lot of fun doing it and a lot of fun hanging out with all you guys. In the next episode, we're going to be working on our farmhouse, but in order to do that, we need to go on a big journey because there's so many blocks that I want to incorporate into this build that we do not currently own. We got to go find a swamp, we got to go find a jungle, we got to go find a savanna and a desert. We're going to be going on a huge trek next episode, and I'm super excited for it, so be sure to tune in. And so, once again, thank you for watching, and don't forget, be gay, do crime. Also, Bubbles died. I can't do any terraforming over here because he'll get mad at me. Okay, he's being shockingly tolerant right now. Hi, Bubbles. Well, I got what I asked for.